We are just the same person, Maddie, you and me. We're in the same. We're just
Hooray!
one person in two bodies at this point. It should be one girl, two bodies, two garbage cans. One girl, two garbage cans.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway. Welcome to 2Girls1GarbageCan, the podcast where we explore the garbage can state of Australian politics through the lens of what has come before. I am one of your hosts, Tamara.
I am Maddie, and today we've got a bit of an interesting topic for you.
What are we discussing today, Maddie? I'm very nervous.
We are discussing strike action in Australia and the response of Labor, both state and federal governments, to that strike action.
Sorry, headphone warning. Warning for headphone users. What's it like having another person out there who just sometimes does the research for you and presents all the information for you that you'd like to know about topics? It's lovely. I love it.
I will send you this script after I'm done so that you can have it for anything you need.
Yes, thank you. I love it. I love
You're
it.
welcome.
Now, chat, I do apologise. I'm going to be focusing exclusively on Maddie. I love you all, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I'm actually like vibrating a little bit over here. Let's get into it.
Let's get started then, since Tamara is so hyped for today's episode. So, today our discussion revolves around the end of World War II, the use of the Australian Army on home soil during peacetime, and the subsequent banishment of the Labor Party from the leadership of Australia for more than 2 decades as part of the fallout.
Holy shit.
By the end of this episode of the podcast, I hope to show our fellow Auspol trash pandas that the Australian Labor Party has never truly been on the side of the working class by showing historical examples and linking it to modern day policy.
Someone clip that, please, because that was just so poetic. Eloquent, poetic, like it was giving... that was cunt. Yes, please. Okay, go.
I aim to please, my love. Now, in saying all of this, I'm going to reveal that the primary topic of today's podcast will be the 1949 coal strike. However, we do need to go a little bit further back for some context. During World War II, workers, especially those in the mineral resource extraction, manufacturing and transport industries, were expected to work incredibly long hours for little pay to ensure that the war machine could continue running. This was grudgingly accepted on the premise that it was to keep the world safe from the Axis powers. However, after the end of the war in September 1945, the capitalist owner classes of Queensland did not see merit in removing the wage freezers or lowering the expected working hours for their staff, as now that the war had ended, the extra production from the extended hours and lowered costs of payroll saw them making incredible profits in private sales. In 1947, the Queensland rail workers and their relevant unions had lodged claims with the Queensland State Arbitration Court, seeking pay that was comparable to those of rail workers in the other states of the country. The unions were also pissed about the arbitration court's intentional delays in hearing their claims about weekend penalty rates, which were linked to the 40-hour work week campaign. As a side note, the Commonwealth Arbitrations Court only gave approval of the 40-hour 5-day work week on the 1st of January 1948.
Fucking hell.
Due to World War II and the siphoning of profits, Queensland's rail system was terribly run down and in need of maintenance. But there was a shortage of materials and skilled workers to deal with the demand, and the Railways Department wouldn't offer a competitive enough wage to attract the workers that it needed. Eventually,
Did they start asking for volunteers?
No. Eventually, the department contracted out work to private firms who they paid more than the people that were directly employed by the Railways Department, which obviously further infuriated the unions and the workers they represented.
Fucking hell. The government fucking scumbags. Oh,
Yep.
I hate them so fucking much. They're literally, like, this is the thing people don't get. They're literally supposed to be, sorry.
No, you're all right. Hey, this is what we do. I give you a bit of information. You have some chance to be deeply angry about it. We continue.
Tale as old time, Ed. Absolutely. Like, they're supposed to be
100%.
standing up for the workers. Literally, they're supposed to be standing up for the workers, and instead they turn around and hand more power to private corporations. It just infuriates me that people want to turn around and in any way, shape or form say that anything the government does is to benefit the people, to this day. Whenever I point out, like, talking about this current, what they're doing with build to rent, and people keep saying, well, do you want more housing or not? Nothing the government has ever done has been for our benefit. They will always work toward the benefit of private organisations and private capital. It's because of the ethos of our governments. It doesn't matter who is in fucking power. And it is not going to benefit us. Nothing that these companies do is ever going to benefit us. Like, I hate that they keep framing it this way. That, sorry.
No, you're good, buddy. You're good. Trust me. These rants are so relevant, I promise you. So, in 1947, Queensland was also going through a severe drought, which had reduced the production of meat and milk, which, along with clothing and petrol, were all still being rationed. And there was also a severely reduced sugarcane harvest in far north Queensland. In March of 47, it was reported that more than half of Australia's total unemployed adult population were located within the state of Queensland.
Fuck.
So the entire unemployed population of the country, more than half of it was based out of Queensland.
Yeah. Unemployment was really focused in this one area. So you can really put it down to one or two industries then, with that being the case.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yep. And primarily farming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether that be livestock, dairy, or sugarcane.
And people
seems to have...
People today really do underestimate how drought intolerant Australia is, because we've got all this modern agriculture, like this modern piping, modern, convenience. We think that we're really drought tolerant. My mum was 7, around that age, before she ever saw rain. I think it was a 7-year drought. So she was 5 before she saw rain, because she was born 2 years into the drought. But anyway, she was living at the orphanage, and all the kids at the orphanage were like running outside screaming when the rain started, because they, like, some of them had never ever seen rain before.
Yep.
As a country, we forget, like, I remember growing up and having to ship in water and having to buy water because we didn't have water. With climate change and everything that's coming, just thinking about half the unemployment could be put down to really climate-related events. Not half of all the people, but half of Queensland unemployment could have been put down to weather-related events. We really underestimate how, for us as a nation, like, when people talk about the fact that first world countries won't be as affected by climate change, they're not talking about Australia. We're a very underdeveloped
They're not
economy.
including us.
Yeah, we're fucked. We are absolutely fucking fucked. It's already fucking us on a massive level.
Yep. We're still resource and farming majority community, which is a third world economy.
Very, very. I prefer to say underdeveloped economy, because I think it's a better way to operate an economy if you're not trying to ship things elsewhere. If you're just trying to keep them in here and you're, not taking them all, you're just focusing on, it's not terrible, but the problem is that we don't keep any of those resources for ourselves either. We sell them all overseas and then buy them back at a higher price. So we are, we are very, very, like, we're fucked the minute the weather turns. Like, we are fucked. And I think we've really forgotten that.
Because when things do go terribly south for global climate, allegiances, treaties, they're going to stop meaning anything.
Yep.
It'll be every country for itself.
Yep.
And the sooner that reality sinks in for the leadership of this
Yep.
country, the better. They need to start focusing on making sure that the country and the people living within it will be okay.
Yep.
We're so stuck on making profit for private enterprise.
The apple harvest this year was fucked because of the way that winter works. The trees bloomed at the wrong time, and most of the 90% of the apples didn't fruit. Like we've had a massive crush, and it's just because of the timing of when the cold weather started this year and how late it started.
Started like a month and a half too late.
Yeah. And so we're not going to have any apples.
Yep.
And everyone's like, no big deal. We'll just get them from somewhere else. Oh, yeah.
Cool. Enjoy your $5 per apple. Have fun with that.
Not to mention the fact that, suddenly you're going to start growing apples up in Carnarvon? Like, where are these apples coming from? They don't have apple trees in these other places because they haven't had the weather to grow apples before. We've done this centralized farming where we've just put things in certain locations, and then when they fail, we go, oh, well, we'll get our apples from elsewhere. Where? Where are you going to get your apples from? You put all of your apples in these certain locations that now no longer have the correct temperament to grow apples.
Yep. And this is what happens when you put all of your apples in one basket.
Fucking yes! Oh, God, Maddie's on fire today. Clip it.
Alrighty.
Gold. Fucking gold.
Amid this background of drought and unemployment and the state government paying private enterprise more to come in and do the work, the workshop and running shed tradesmen that were employed directly by the Railways Department down tools at 1 minute past midnight on the 3rd of February 1948. Now, I do promise we are getting to the coal strikes of 49, but as with all things in the world, there is so much that links to each other with significant events that I need to talk about some of it to contextualize things.
The coal strikes.
I've cut out so much other information to give you an idea. The original draft of this script that I wrote for the episode was double the length it is now, 14 pages long.
God, you should have kept it all 7. In. I would have loved all of that. I was going to say, the coal strikes did not fall out of a coconut tree.
Correct. Alrighty, so they down tools on the 3rd of February 1948. On March the 9th of 1948, just under 5 weeks into the rail strike, Queensland Labor Premier Ned Hanlon, who, get this, was a former Queensland rail worker and union official
we learnt about
who
him.
had played a prominent role in 1912 Brisbane General Strike as a militant organiser.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what he'd done previously, and now in 1948 he is the Labor Premier.
Yeah.
He passed the Industrial Law Amendment Act of 1948, which granted police extraordinary powers to arrest people without a warrant and enter any home without cause. The bill has been described as one of the most drastic bills ever brought before an Australian Parliament and was solely aimed at preventing picketing and ending the railway strike.
It was during peacetime too. That we weren't involved in an armed conflict. There was no overseas threat. Yep.
This was 1948, 3 years after the end of World War II.
This is a guy who grew up in housing department housing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. What a parallel.
What a parallel.
Huh. I wonder if there's a reason I'm talking about these specific things.
What a shock. Who could have thunk that our historical
the whole premise of the podcast is to look at historical events and connect them to present day. What a shock that we found a historical event that connects to the present day.
Is that the premise of the podcast? Oh. We're so funny, so demure. That was the start of the Flying Squads, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
And unfortunately, it began a culture as well. Because believe it or not, Queensland Police has been a huge, massive issue as far as policing is concerned. The modern day like vibe of policing where they are this military unit and hurrah and like we're going to stick together that is really strong in the Queensland Police in particular was born out of this period of time where they it's horrendous the fact that we're still living with the effects of this to this day, and Peter Dutton wants to be Prime Minister. Fuck no. Fuck no. I promise you it will not be the teenage boys you have to worry about going rogue in this country if Peter Dutton becomes Prime Minister. I promise you, ASIO, it is not the teenage boys you will have to worry about.
It'll be people with badges and sidearms.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm going to be very clear for anybody that pops in here and has a bit of a listen, right? As much as I shit on the Labor Party, which I do from a great height, because they fucking deserve
it,
right? I also want to make clear that I fucking hate the Liberals more.
Oh, absolutely. You can hate. I have room in my heart to hate both.
Just so it's perfectly clear. Just so it's perfectly clear to everybody. Yes, Labor is dog shit, and I hate them. But I hate the Libs more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think this is the thing I say to people all the time when they're like, well, you know, if you're going to shit on Labor, do you want the Liberal Party to win? No, I have room in my heart to hate both. There is plenty of room in this big old nugget here. Like, look at it. Look at the size of this thing. We split it evenly down the middle for Libs and Labor. It's fine.
And because of the way our voting system works, we don't have the American duopoly of two choices.
Exactly. We're allowed to hate them both.
There is an option for a third or fourth or fifth choice to vote in.
Exactly.
You know, it's not one or the other in this fucking country. And the second people realize that, the second we can start getting some actual progress within politics in this shit.
And I would like to point out to any international viewers that we do have as well, at this upcoming state election in Western Australia that's coming up in a few months' time, or March next year, not a few months, like March next year, this will be the first West Australian election that we've had with these election rules. The last state election, we had a massive fallout because of the way that the upper house is elected in this state. Everyone had issues with it. You basically just get one number to put in one box, and then they get to decide, that person gets to decide where your vote went. That was how it used to run in Western Australia. There was massive pushback as a result of the way that the last election went. And so they changed it. So this election is going to be, we're going to be voting differently for the first time. That same thing happened when I was a kid, when they changed the way that we vote in Australia at our federal level. Like, this isn't that old. Like, I remember when they had to explain to people how to vote at the federal election because they changed it, and they had all these ads of people playing hopscotch on ballot papers and stuff. Like, it's ingrained in my head when I was a kid. So it is possible. Instead of complaining and going, I'm just not going to vote because I've only got two options, start working on actually getting the way the voting system operates changed, because it doesn't benefit our government for our voting system to operate this way, but it benefits us, and so we got it to happen. Like, just take heart.
Start for international viewers, particularly those in America, start local. Start with your councils, start with your elections. City boards, start with these set of things. Either run for them yourself, or ensure that you vote in them for a person who shares your progressive ideas. What we need to do, particularly Americans, is create a groundswell of local council electors who want to reform voting. Alrighty, so continuing on, we left off at the bill being introduced by Ned Handlin. On St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March, so 6 days after the strike-busting bill was introduced to Queensland Parliament, in response to the passing of that legislation, a group of men and women carrying banners, placards, and a fake coffin proceeded down Edward Street from Trades Hall towards the Central Street station in order to protest the law. Police, who were emboldened by their enhanced powers, soon closed in on the demonstrators. They tore placards from their grasp and attacked them with batons. 5 men were arrested and 2 were hospitalised. One of the men who was hospitalised was Fred Patterson, Queensland member of the Legislative Assembly for the seat of Bowen, and the only member of the Communist Party of Australia to have ever been elected to office. Patterson's injuries included scalp lacerations, brain damage, concussion, and shock. In typical Aussie fashion, the incident was later known as the St. Patrick's Day Bash. In the days following this attack by police on picketers, there was a mass protest over the incident, with thousands of union members and sympathisers gathering in King George Square, with other demonstrations held around the country. On the 1st of April, following 7.5 hours of discussion, the Central Railway Disputes Committee recommended that workers accept a rise of 12.5 shillings a week, with proportionate increases for unskilled and semi-skilled workers. While this was less than the unions had originally requested, it was substantially more than the department had offered. Following the recommendation of the committee, the railmen accepted the government's offer, and the rail strike finally ended at midnight on the 5th of April 1948. Queensland paid a heavy economic toll for the work stoppage, with estimates that it cost the state up to £20 million, which is equivalent to $1.5 billion in today's currency. The strike had long-lasting impact on the Queensland labour movement and generated friction in union ranks and exposed the struggle between the Communist Party of Australia and Queensland Labour for years to come. Okay, so with all of that said, we now have the state of workers' rights and the temperature of worker-to-political relations in Australia established. My apologies for the long piece of background information. If you want, consider today's episode a 2-for-1.
I was going to say...
Onwards to the coal strikes.
You've only been talking for half an hour, so you are breezing through this so quickly. Like, you're doing a great job at hitting the highlights, so don't stress at all. I was just going to say, cool. Is any of this at all sounding at all like what the CFMEU are going through at the moment with the Labor government? Just throwing them under the fucking bus, trying to have them put into administration, giving the police extraordinary powers to go in there and...
Oh, darling, you've heard nothing yet.
Oh, my God.
It gets more relevant.
Let's go.
So
I think I need to do another cone. This is just, I'm getting way too over the top excited. I know I am. I'm sorry.
You are very hyped.
I am.
This is the most excited I've seen you in ages.
Because this is like...
I really nailed the research for this week's topic.
Baby, like, you're trying to get my pants or what? Like, it sounds like it. God.
Always, yes.
So mindful, very demure.
Thank you so much to everyone for joining us for this week's dive into the depths of the trash fire that is Australian politics. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure to drop us a follow and do all of the usual engagement things to help us get the word out there. You can find Tamara and myself on social media links in the description below, but for now, it's garbage day, so the girls got to take the trash out. Bye.
Bye!